Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm Shane Snipes and you are watching the E'ship Show here at BMCC, a CUNY college that's part of the City of New York's university system. And I am the director of the Entrepreneurship program here at BMCC. We actually coordinate all kinds of great things around entrepreneurship. We work closely with some of the other community colleges. We work closely with some of the great tech and innovation incubator spaces like iCore. And we also work with a bunch of different small business development centers, one of which is at Baruch College and a couple of others around the city. The Small Business Administration is one of our partners too. So we're always excited to have and offer you all kinds of information out there. The point of the E'ship Show is really to let you have a chance to talk to and interact with some of the leading entrepreneurs in their particular fields and some of the people who've taken their industry experience, taken their work through the years and turned it into an entrepreneurial venture of some kind. Sometimes they fall into it by chance. Sometimes things just happen for the right reasons. Other times they work really hard in a very specific directed way to get there. So they're all different paths to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship success. And that's what I want to share with you here in the E'ship Show. Today, I'm so excited to have as our guest Lisa Hendrickson. She is one of those entrepreneurs who has been working in a field that I love, sustainability, for many years, but she's also an educator and has developed a strategy business and a strategic way of presenting information to businesses. So we're going to talk about what that means. How do you take your knowledge and move it in a specific way? How do you make sustainability an important part of your business? And I know that's a fancy word, right? Sustainability. What exactly does that mean? How could you be talking about sustainability in business when we just want to make money? Well, she's going to talk to you about, and I will too, how those two things, if you put them together, you make more money than you would without them together. So we'll talk about that and ways that you can do it with your business ideas. Lisa, I wanted to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for being with me here today.
What a lovely introduction. And you know what, Shane? I am so delighted to be here. I love talking about entrepreneurship. I'm so delighted that I can speak to your students and the people at large who are listening. All those constituencies are so important. And so thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here today.
So, Lisa, we're going to get right into it with a question that I always like to start with, or something like it, which is, what was your beginning place where you started to think about entrepreneurship? How did it kind of bud into your mind?
You know, it may sound arrogant, but I always thought that I could do things better. And coming from the idea of there's so many better things that we can be doing, or deliver things better, or make something more special, or have it really work out for people. Why doesn't it? And that impetus to really want to be of service to something that I just thought was missing in so many markets. And I always had a really big, I'll just call it an independent streak, where I felt like, well, I could do that, sure, right? And that was really the budding moment. Those are the thoughts that really drove me into that particular direction. You know,
right. So let's, with that in mind, I like that piece. And now for a second, I'll give you another deeper question related to that. Do you remember any specific things that really took you down that pathway that pointed you in a direction? Were they things, were they a mentor that you spoke to? Was it a book that you read? If you can recall, just take a second or two and see if you can dig into a couple of things. And maybe it's something that propelled you after you had already decided to be entrepreneurial and, quote, make things better, which I love. I like that idea.
I'm actually going to go way, way back. The first thing, and I have this, that I share this story. Sometimes I'll give you the really quick one. My dad gave me a quarter for a business idea I had because he was laying on a couch on a Sunday afternoon and he really didn't want to do it. And I was like, hey, Dad, I want to have a carnival in the front yard and invite all the kids over because it'd be really fun. And he was like, wow, that sounds great, Lisa. When? He's like, I was like, today, right now. And you're going to put up this carnival? And my dad was like, what a great idea. It's such a great idea. I'd like to buy that idea from you. And I'm going to give you 25 cents for that idea. I'm going to hold on to it. Is that okay? I was like, that's amazing. So the idea.
So that was one of your first transactions, right? So you were like, this is how you transact money. This is how you like make a living. You come up with something people are willing to pay for.
That was genius. But it was really on my dad, who was like, oh, no, right? I think as an adult now, oh, he was so smart. And he didn't go like, please don't bother me. He was like, hey, I'm going to give you this. But there's a couple of different, as an adult, things that I thought about. When I was in corporate and I told you, I had worked my way through undergraduate and graduate school as a waitress and a bartender. And when I got out of grad school, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get this amazing corporate job and I'm just going to get a check and life is going to be easier. And then I realized in going through corporate that, you know what? That isn't my pathway, because what I think is amazing about entrepreneurship is you get to know your own mind and then follow what it is that you think is the right thing to do. You don't always have that opportunity inside of corporate. So I started thinking very much about what is the change that I deeply believe in. Call me a Vagandiist. Yep. What's the change I wanted to be in the world? And I realized it wasn't coming from the corporate opportunities, which, by the way, was really disappointing to me, because I thought if I worked really hard getting through school and doing that on the other side of it was going to be like this magic job that was going to take me around the world and I'm going to see all these people and, all these things would happen. But what really came to pass was, if that was what I really wanted to do, I was going to have to do that for myself.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And that's a great point to make, that when do you really recognize that distinction, right? Is it a level of discomfort that you have in the corporate world, or is it the fact that other things in your life kind of build up to a point that make you want to go over that entrepreneurial threshold?
Yeah, so the thing that I found surprising, and listen, I was naive. I didn't come from a family of corporate. My dad was a plumber, like I didn't come from a background that had professionalism, right, in corporate America. And what surprised me so much was, in corporate America, a lot of the double speak of, wow, that's a great idea. And then I would just think we were going to go do it, except that oftentimes there's competing sensibilities or turf war, or like I didn't understand any of it. And I just thought, why wouldn't we just go make this better for the customer? Or why wouldn't we go make this better for the employees when we know we could do that? And so really it was in losing my enthusiasm and my patience for that sort of political nature. I'm not very good at it. I'm just kind of like, what you see is what you get. I'm pretty straight up, and I have no ulterior motive. I don't say, yes, we'll do that, but I don't mean it. I mean, I say yes, it will happen. So it was those kinds of experiences made me realize, like, you know what? I can either spend more time here doing this, or I can go do something on my own. And that's when I really decided entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and when you think about entrepreneurship and you think about that knowledge that you decided you wanted to try to take out into the world and do something with, at what point do you think you had enough knowledge that you could be like, all right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to make something on my own? So walk me through those beginning stages of what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so, in corporate, I was a corporate strategist, so I had a specialty, right? And I worked in technology. And so I had those skill sets, and I also had a point of view that I felt was not only helpful, but increased effectiveness and profitability for clients and customers. And then being able to take that, what I knew, and the delivery method of how do we deliver that, then go out and do it in a way that I felt could be really fulfilled upon. So I didn't just go, yeah, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. And then the next day I'm an entrepreneur. Well, what am I going to do now? Right? I didn't have formulation outside of a job that I already had. I looked at that job that I had and I saw the things that worked and looked and said, what can I make better? And then I saw the things that really didn't work at all. And I said, how can I make that work? And it was from those foundations, and very much, what's the problem? How am I solving that? And how do I make this better so that we really can fulfill on something wonderful for people? And I think technology had, and still does, has a really wonderful promise for delivering benefit to people's lives. And I wanted to be able to remove the barriers to that so that we could go ahead and deliver those things. I mean, it might be a little wide-eyed and earnest and sometimes naive, but I still believe that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The truth is technology does make our lives much better in many, 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 many ways, right? There are also drawbacks to technology. So technology is such a great tool for that. I want to dig in just a little bit deeper because I always like to sort of break things apart a little bit for the people who are watching.
Sure.
Skill sets. And you talk about strategy as one of the components, and being a strategist and being a strategic consultant or a consultant around strategy. What pieces and parts of those skills do you think really translated well once you were shifting into the entrepreneurship space?
So great question. I am a mad student. I read, learn, and I never stop learning. To be a good strategist, you must be on the path of continuous improvement, which means you must read and learn. You must absorb knowledge, and you must take that knowledge and find a way to have it be most useful that is in alignment with a mission or a purpose or an outcome, right? So you want to be able to say, here's market research, and isn't that interesting? Like, let's say, for example, what's happening in retail, pop-up stores. You want to be able to say, hey, there's this whole downside of retail that's going on, and people can't afford the storefronts anymore. And I saw some people doing these pop-ups, which is amazing. How do we make a strategy to empower smaller emerging retailers to be able to use pop-ups to their benefit for brand awareness, brand expansion, and sales? So it's taking a trend, you see something happen in the market, you ask a question and you deliver an answer using your skill sets, right? It means mad research, lots and lots of data behind it, right? You don't want to just go, I have a feeling. Yeah, feelings help you, point you in the right direction sometimes, but also feelings can point you in the wrong directions. You want data-backed choices and then solutions and decisions.
Yeah. That's so perfect. And that just drives home the fact that when I ask my students to create something, I want the facts, I want the sources, I want you to go out and find new information. So there you go. That's the reason someone else other than me is telling you the reason why you're doing the assignment. Just joking, guys.
Totally awesome. I have one other thing to say about it, because if you go to a potential customer and you tell them, hey, we're going to do this, and here's the thing, and doesn't that sound great? They're going to ask you, well, why and where's the data? What's informing that? So it's not just Shane, and it's not just me telling you that. Your customer will tell you that, and then you'll have to go back and go get that data anyway, right?
Yeah, precisely. When we were both building our companies, working in the space of sustainability, which we'll talk about here more in just a moment. One of the things that I realized, as I told you, was that there's all this data that everyone has, but no one knows how to interpret and analyze it, even though there's some analytics out there that you can do. No one had made that easy yet. So the problem that I saw that I wanted to fix was that no one could take all this data that was coming in from logistics locations or from logistical data systems and plug it into, okay, this is what this means for climate change. This is how I changed this aspect of climate change. This is what it meant in terms of outputs in your mission and goals in the corporate social responsibility space. So I saw this big, huge problem and an emerging field that was growing really quickly and kind of put those two pieces together. Now, if you're lucky enough to see something like that and build something that plugs in, fixes it, good for you, because your chances are you're going to have a successful business if you can execute on it and make it happen. What, from your perspective, would you say for students, let's say that they just have a basic, very beginning of an idea. How do they take your strategic mind and start to apply that to their business idea?
So that's totally great. One of the things that I think is a huge help is making a hypothesis. Getting to drill down of what do I believe? A hypothesis like, I believe that pop-up stores will replace 20% of regular retail stores in the next 10 years. Now, you may have no data behind it, but that's your hypothesis. That's what you believe. So then you start looking for data. Is there data in agreement that those are the things that are happening? And start looking for, how do you build a case? Or do I have to change my hypothesis to be able to say, you know what, that might not be the right thing to do. Maybe it's only going to be 10% of the marketplace. Maybe we thought it's going to move faster than initially thought, or maybe it's going to move slower, which will impact how you're going to bring that idea to market. Right? Yeah. So you always want to start with creating, and by the way, coming up with your hypothesis takes a lot of thinking. What is it that I really believe? Mm-hmm. And then writing that down and then seeing, what does data tell us? Am I reading articles or research that are in agreement with this? Does the industry, if I went to an industry event, is that what everybody's saying or no? And yeah, that gives you a way to look to have that launch point.
That's a great point too. Going to those events and meeting these people in your particular industry that you're excited about, that's another way. Like you said, oftentimes people think I'm going to have to go into a library and look at research. No, sometimes all you have to do is go to a presentation around the industry that you're in, and they're going to put a graph up there that's literally telling you exactly the research that you need to prove that, yeah, there is a space for this new restaurant-related app that you want to create, or there is a new need for this new product related to medicine that you want to do, right?
Exactly. And, there's nothing less expensive than having that show up for you, having that. And the other thing you can do is walk up to the speaker afterwards and ask a question. People love to be able to help you and answer your question for you. Really, sometimes we get really shy because we might not think the question is smart, or we're not sure of ourselves, but really, if you ask the question, you will be amazed at the answers you'll get.
Yeah, and that takes me to, I was just at an event today for 1 Million Cups, the entrepreneurship event here in New York City. And someone said this quote to me, and it totally sticks in my mind specifically to what you just said, which is, if you ask someone for advice, you'll get time and money. If you ask someone for time and money, you'll get advice. So which one do you actually want? And that's really interesting that our brains actually work that way. Like when someone asks us for advice, we end up giving them advice, but more importantly, they get connected and might spend more time with us and or give us more access to money because they know specifically what we're talking about. Whereas if we go, I want $50,000, right? That's a totally different thing.
Totally. I completely agree.
Yeah. So to continue on with the questions, just because I want to throw a couple of my students' questions in right now.
Okay.
Thanks so much, guys, for putting your questions up. And please put your questions up down in the comment section below on YouTube as well. And as things pop in, I'll make sure I let Lisa know that a question is there for her and she can come back and answer it. Or I'll answer it using her voice if I can. Just kidding.
Okay.
No, I promise I won't do that. I promise I won't do that. All right. So one of my students asked, okay, so you work at FIT. She looked, of course, everyone Googles everybody these days. So you got Googled by my students. And one thing that came up was FIT and fashion, right? So FIT is known for fashion. And people were asking, what does strategy have to do with fashion? And how would it apply to anyone who's trying to actually start a company?
Holy smokes, strategy has everything to do with fashion. Fashion is the second largest industry in the world. Did you know that? And the reason why strategy has to do with it is that everybody's got to wear something, but nobody ever wants to wear the same thing, right? So it means you have to understand who is your customer. Do you think selling menswear to Walmart is the same thing as selling menswear product, right? Not the same, not at all. And so strategy in any sort of consumer product, whether it's interiors and furnishings, whether it's fashion oriented, whether it's music, there are all different kinds of strategies that are made because we're serving so many different types of customers. You know, and I'll say for your students, who I'm going to say are mostly not 70 and above, right? So people who are 70 above might have mobility issues. And so if you couldn't zip up a sweater, if you have arthritis, you might have to have different kinds of way, or like can't close a button. You might have to figure out different ways for people to close their, you know, button up or their clothes, whereas that might not be something that you would think about for people who are interested in athleisure wear who are 20, right? That's how strategy.
Oh, that's an amazing point too, and it digs into a little bit of what we'll talk about when it comes to sustainability here in just a second. I do want to point out when you're talking about that vertical of the 70-year-old who's looking for specific types of shirts that they can button up very easily because of specific issues. With the internet, this is what's different about the world now than what it used to be. With the internet, I can go out and find my customer because they're in different social media places. Maybe the 70-year-olds, most of them now are on Facebook. They're not doing much Instagram, but they're starting to get into Instagram, but there's still a lot of them on Facebook. So you could actually test and create like an opportunity on Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunding site. Put forward your idea, put forward your drawings, put forward all these pieces, create a fun little video of what it would be like to solve this problem. And then who knows, you might be able to raise the $10, $15, $25, $50,000 to prototype and build this product. But that's just one example. And this is coming randomly, guys, out of a conversation that Lisa and I are having right now. But that's how people who are thinking about things strategically are saying, I don't have to solve a big problem because a big problem is already trying to be solved by all those other people. Let me solve a small problem that I can find a big audience for that allows me to launch off. Because once you've created that product, what do you get to do with it? What would you do with it after you've built this one product, Lisa? How would you build off of that?
Yeah, so you can then look at what are other issues that your core audience is having. Maybe it's not just dealing with clothing. Maybe those people have difficulty opening, you know, different cans of food or right? If they have arthritis. I mean, we all know, and I'm making this up as we go along because I don't have any of those products, but you know, if you offered them one product that worked and they are satisfied with it and you expanded that product market, right? Yeah. You could probably have a really good opportunity to sell the next thing to the people, right? Yeah. And so you could start and create an entirely new category from the first product that you started selling. That is a strategic thought. How do I help these people even more now, right? That's a strategic thought. And you can think, well, okay, it's in food and mobility and opening doors, or what if they don't have people who can help them type? Maybe there's voice activated stuff that they're going to need, all those different kinds of things.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I'll take it to the exit point. If just to finish this little thought up, if you decided to go deeper into fashion, right, and you started creating multiple different shorts, and maybe you had shorts and pants and other shirts that you created that had the similar closures that you had designed or come up with. So now all of a sudden you have a whole fashion line. Who knows which fashion line might want to buy your customer base and buy your technologies and all the things that you built out of getting into this particular market really well. That's the future for a lot of people who maybe they're excited about building a business and they realize at some point, like I did, that I didn't want to be in the business of sustainability analytics as much as I wanted to teach, right? So when I had my opportunity to exit sustainability analytics, I did take my exit. So this could be your opportunity if we took that idea all the way to an exit where you could build it, or you can continue to build it into a large fashion brand, right? That address that particular market.
All kinds of things. Yeah.
Let's talk for a second about sustainability. And I know you and I have worked in sustainability. Talk to me about how you got into it and one of the things you said to me when we were chatting before we started the show is you said, it's really important that companies do something when it comes to thinking about an issue like sustainability or any other issue these days when they're building their companies.
Absolutely. So I believe in purpose-driven, coming together with how do we do well in the world? You know, the idea, the company that my husband and I ran was one of the first sustainable manufacturing companies in New York City. And we made furnishings, anything wood, glass, metal, or stone. But the thing that really bothered me about all of that is, did you know that 60% of the waste that ends up in landfill is construction trash?
I had no idea. Wow.
Absolutely. And I thought it was reprehensible to participate in that. And so the challenge we took on is to reduce the percentage of waste to hit the waste stream as the business scaled. And that was definitely more difficult than I had imagined. But when we put together the foundational strategy, what's our mission? What's our vision? What are our values? What's our promise to the customer? What is our sustainability promise or our planetary promise? What is it that we are willing to do? That will shape how we build our company and how we make our products. Inherent in how we build our business is what do we value and where do those show up inside of our policies and procedures and our practices and our business practices. So I find all that's foundational.
Yeah. And let's make it really specific too, in the sense that we can make it, do you want to find the best and brightest? Because this generation and all the other generations, I'll put it to you this way, Lisa, in a question. Why do you think people want to work for a company that's purpose-driven? And why do you think that is, that they're so much more connected to the business, work for the business longer, give more effort, work longer hours, all those things?
Right, because you give people a reason to believe. When we have a purpose that's out front, people think, God, that's super cool. Or they think, I'm not really interested in that. Either way, it works to attract the people who you'd like to have come on board with you, or it repels the people that you don't want to have in your universe anyway. And so by having people be able to just be really excited about what you're doing, they're excited to go to work every day and excited to work with the people that they have there. And you can have a common mission and common goals, which makes work actually a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
More beneficial for the world.
Definitely. You're spot on with that. And I'm going to ask you the final question. 30 minutes went by like 3 minutes.
Wasn't that fast?
It's like gone now. But I want to pose a closing question for you, which I like to offer sometimes in these shows. And that is, when you think about the future of entrepreneurship, because, you know, we've been in this, we're sort of on this upswing and this wave is coming, everyone talking about entrepreneurship and being part of entrepreneurship. What do you hope for? What would you put forward for the students as they go out and start thinking about trying to be an entrepreneur, or maybe they're already an entrepreneur and they just want to get better, and so they're watching these videos?
So that's great. So I want to give them a couple of axioms to know. One is that entrepreneurship's a long game, right? We really like to think about, I'm going to make this algorithm and in 18 months, I'm going to be a billionaire by sitting in my dorm room and I'll make this and then I'll just be Mark Zuckerberg or something like that. But I want you to know that that is not really the journey. The journey is, what am I willing to do to follow the road to build something worthwhile that will have me be able to do what I want to do every day and see the change that I want to see in the world. It's a much longer game than a short-term, quick, get rich quick kind of thing. So I'd really like for people to have an honest conversation with themselves about what is it that we're willing to do before they step into entrepreneurship. Two, I think the future of entrepreneurship from technology is going to get easier now that I told you about the hard road, because you'll be able to not know coding but build your website like on a Wix or a Squarespace or something like that. You won't have to build a back end to transact. You can buy a store, right, and put things out there. You can learn quickly how to be able to put things out on social media. So I think we're going to be able to move faster and faster as the tool sets come out that helps support entrepreneurship. And it's going to be, what are you bringing to the party to actually make that happen? I think as we are leveling the playing field that way, I think there's some great stuff. And then lastly, in entrepreneurship, and this sounds like a weird thing about entrepreneurship, you as an entrepreneur are going to start really going into corporations and be a corporate entrepreneur and change things for corporations, because they don't have the skill sets to be entrepreneurs anymore. So there's going to be opportunities for entrepreneurs to go into corporations and build entrepreneurial tools and products for them. Those are the things that I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa, that is super inspiring. Your words are going to be timeless, because I have a feeling we're going to be working on this for a really long time, getting all these things aligned that you and I have been talking about today. I wanted to thank you so much for spending the time with me on the web, and I look forward to seeing you in the future, I hope, at other summits and other events and other things around entrepreneurship in the city. And thank you again. Thank you.
This was so nice. Thank you for having me. It was just delightful. And thanks for inviting me. And students, I'm rooting for you.
Awesome, everyone. Thanks so much. All right. Have a great day.
Okay.
Ciao.